It's easy to get complacent, to even get a little bit bored, to sort of rest on your laurels. We're talking about you're now in your 30s and you've kind of figured out what you're going to be doing, etc. And you might be reading the daily laws at different points in your life. You might be in your 20s when you're reading it, but you need to think ahead, you need to plan ahead, because your goal in this whole process is to reach this level of creativity and mastery. And so the thing that I've learned is something that's kind of personal, but I've ended up putting in my books, is that each time you have to continually challenge yourself. Your apprenticeship phase never really ends. No matter how much success you have in life, no matter how much money you make or how much attention you get or how much power you have, you always have to keep learning. The world is continually changing, and if you're not adapting, if you're not keeping up with it, you're going to fall behind. And my great mentor in life was a guy named Niccolo Machiavelli, a writer. And his idea is a lot of people rise to positions of success through one particular trait they have. They're very aggressive, they're very charismatic, they're whatever it is, they have one quality that fits the spirit of the times and they rise to the top. But then they can't adapt. It's the only thing they've known. They've learned one thing. They have this one power in life. And when they get to the top, and now circumstances change, things are different in the world, socially, economically, culturally, and they can't change, and they keep doing the same thing, and it ends up being their downfall. The ultimate prince, because this is from the book The Prince, is a person who can continually adapt, continually change their game. And what that means is you have to maintain a spirit of openness, where you're continually learning, continually challenging yourself.
Need motivation?
Watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation!
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because running the business is hard, and waking up every day and getting to work when you're all by yourself is hard. And the thing that saved me, that continues to inspire me, motivate me, give me hope, inspiration, ideas, is looking at the stories of people who've done a lot more than me. And I learn strategies, I get motivation, and it gets me to believe in myself to go off and attack the day. And so I hope this video inspires you to do the same as well. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Robert Greene, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
If you're in your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s, and you still have this attitude that you have to learn, there are things that you don't do well, you need new skills, there's nothing in the world that's going to stop you, because that's sort of the ultimate trick. That's the ultimate prince that Machiavelli was talking about, a person who is continually open and changing and adapting themselves. And that's sort of the idea in the month of March about how to develop the most creative mind possible. And creativity, which is sort of like the philosopher's stone, the ultimate thing we're all in search of, is a matter of fluidity. It's a matter that your mind is open. A creative person given a problem, most people when given a problem will think of A, B, or C as a possible solution. A creative person will think of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, right? They're considering 12 possibilities when the other person is only considering 3. That's because their mind is open. They don't get lost in all of that and say, I don't know what to do. They just are more fluid. They're considering more. Their mind is more open and adaptable, right? So I talked in the beginning about the importance of your attitude, and that is all. I'm coming back to that. So the spirit where you're open, you're learning, you're excited, you don't think you have all the answers. That is what's going to make you a kick-ass creative person, somebody who masters their field.
Rule number 2 is learn the art of mastery.
Your next book that I have here, Mastery. Why did you write a book called Mastery?
Well, to be honest with you, it came, the idea for it was in around the year 2010, 2009. I was getting a little worried that people who were reading my books, particularly young men who were reading Power and Seduction, they were thinking, that's all I need in life, man. I just need to be a manipulator. I just need to play political games. That's what success is all about. And I was worried that, if you don't understand how to make something, what's going to be the future of mankind? Our bridges just going to fall down? Our hotels going to collapse? People don't know how to make things anymore. We don't know how to use our hands anymore, right? So being able to be good with people is extremely important as a social animal. But perhaps higher up in the hierarchy is being able to do things, to be able to have great skill and to be able to create something and know how to master a subject and to, build something that can last. That's really important. And I'm feeling like because young people, this is back in 2010, imagine now, have this idea that everything comes quick and easy because you can click, click, click and things come to you, that everything in life should be that way, that we're becoming alienated from the human brain, how the human brain operates, because the human brain requires time. If you know how the human brain operates, we have what are called neural pathways. And every time you repeat something, a neural pathway is created and strengthened and strengthened and strengthened. It's why we get addicted to things, but it's also why we develop skill. So if I'm sitting there shooting free throws day in and day out and day out, my brain is wiring it, it's learning that motor skill, that hand-mind thing, and it's getting better and better and better at it. It takes time, it takes repetition to build those pathways. And I explain in Mastery that you reach the proverbial 10,000 hours, which some people dispute nowadays. So it's just a number, it's not a fact. You've spent so long learning something that there's so many pathways. It's like this amazing inner landscape with all these connections going on in your brain. And now you can be creative. Now you can come up with things that nobody's ever thought of. You can play chess on a higher level. You can be Pele on soccer or Lionel Messi making passes that no one had ever seen before because you're not having to think, right? You don't have to think anymore. Your body just does what it wants. Imagine 20,000 hours, which is possible, just people sometimes attain in certain fields. You're almost like a genius. You're almost like superhuman, right? If you're someone who's so logged into the internet, to getting things instantly, you can't get past 100 hours, let alone 10,000. You're never going to develop skill, and you're going to find life really, really difficult for you. So I wrote the book because I was actually deeply worried that we were losing a part of how the human brain operates, something elemental part of our wisdom.
Rule number 3 is develop self-awareness.
How do you think these laws of human nature can help people who are struggling with their lives?
Well, it's a very good and important question. I mean, we all have to be very practical. We have to get by. We have to put food on the table. We have to feed our children. We have to do certain basic things to survive. And so, but there's another side to that, and that is a sense of fulfillment in our lives. And a lot of people, particularly with the what they call the Great Resignation going on during the pandemic, are feeling that disconnect. They're working and they're getting money, but they feel kind of empty and something isn't happening for them. And so the book is trying to tell you that we're social animals, that our survival, our happiness, our sense of fulfillment depends on our ability to get along with other people. Okay? And in order to do that, you have to become aware. You are generally in a state of sleep. You are not really aware of who you are, of what makes you an individual, of what makes you tick, of where your thoughts come from, of where your emotions come from. And that lack of disconnect to something essential and vital about what makes you an individual, it has a very deleterious effect on all the things that you do in life. It also makes you a very poor observer of people and their nature. It also makes you a very poor observer of the few toxic people that you inevitably encounter in your life. People, the great narcissist, the passive aggressive, the people full of envy. And because you don't recognize them, because you're not paying attention to yourself and to them, you create all kinds of emotional turmoil in your life. And this could be simple as you have a job and your boss is someone that you just can't deal with or get along with, or you have colleagues, and it drains you of so much energy, and it makes that work seem almost impossible. And so by flipping the switch, by learning about who you are, about the fact that you have a lot of these negative impulses that I talk about in the book, understanding yourself on a deeper level allowing yourself now to judge people for what they are, not what you think they are, not projecting onto them, will make your life at work and everything so much easier. So it's not going to necessarily make you a lot of money and help, in the most essential and immediate needs in life, but I think it will have a very, very important effect on your overall mental health.
Rule number 4 is keep a positive attitude.
Let me explain how this attitude works by giving you an example. Let's say we're taking a walk through a forest path on a very beautiful day, on a very beautiful sunny day, and we're alone. Suddenly we turn a corner and the path is blocked by this stream in front of us. There is no way to continue this walk unless we somehow cross the stream. Now, one of you might look at this scene and notice that across the stream is a beautiful meadow where the path continues. You will notice some rocks in the stream that you could possibly jump across to get to the other side. You don't mind if you fall, and you don't care if your clothes get wet. It's a fun challenge, so you decide to jump across the rocks, you go to the other side to the meadow, and you continue your beautiful, blissful walk on this path. Now, another one of you will look at this scene and see something much differently. You will notice clouds on the horizon that might indicate rain in an hour or two. You notice some moss on the rocks, and you imagine yourself slipping and hitting your head on them. And if you fall into the water, you might catch a cold and get sick. And even if you somehow manage to cross the stream, you're going to have to recross it on the way back. No, it's not worth it. Although you feel frustrated that this is the end of the walk, you turn around and go back. Here, two people are seeing the exact same thing, but one sees only dangers and obstacles, while the other person sees a fun challenge. We can say the same dynamic in business. As an entrepreneur, you have a goal, a project, or a startup to realize. You begin the process, but suddenly there's some obstacles that block your progress. One of you will focus on the bad things that will happen if you go ahead, and so you turn around. Another one of you sees the obstacles as an opportunity. This means that most people will be discouraged from proceeding, and you'll have the entire field to yourself. You embrace the challenge. It's a test. It's a way to prove yourself. It's a way to toughen yourself up. This is the entrepreneurial mindset, which you must work to adopt for yourself. We can compare the attitude to the aperture of a lens. When you are fearful, that aperture tends to close down, giving you a narrow perspective on the world. If you take in less, you have less to fear. But as your mind closes down, you miss seeing opportunities and coming up with new ideas. Some of the best ideas in business are creative combinations that no one had ever thought of, such as microtechnology and music, and voila, the iPod. But if that lens opens up and expands, suddenly you can see all kinds of combinations and connections out there in the world that nobody else is seeing because of their fearful, closed lens, the way they're looking at the world. In this case, the chaos of the world is not something to fear, but something to exploit. Now you can come up with all kinds of incredible combinations of ideas because of this chaotic, wild world that we're living in. This is the source of all creative thinking.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is learn to use your enemies.
The second very curious law in your book that I uncovered was law number 2. I'm talking about the 48 laws of power here, where it says never trust friends too much. learn how to use enemies.
Yeah.
Do you trust your friends?
Okay, well, everything in the book is context. So when you take things out of context, it's a little harder to understand. And what I'm trying to say in that, I'm talking about in the work world, when you're out in the social realm. And one of the worst things that people do is you have a job, and I've been guilty of it myself even after I wrote the damn book. You're out in the work world and you need to hire somebody. You need to find a colleague. You need to find a partner or an employee. Your mind naturally gravitates towards a friend, right? Because they know you, you trust them, you have a relationship, and you feel comfortable with them. And it's a terrible mistake. So many of the worst things that have happened in history are because of that very problem. Because friends, there's all these emotions involved between people, right? And those emotions confuse the issue. So what I'm talking about in that law is when you need to get results, you need to think, when you have a job or something, you have to think in practical terms, not in terms of emotions, not in terms of friendship, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to keep your work world separate. It's not everything about life is having to be friends and having nice things and everybody like you. Sometimes what matters is getting results done. And sometimes the best person to work with isn't your friend because they don't have all this other stuff that we're talking about. In fact, a very powerful move is if there's an enemy out there, somebody who you never got along with, if you approach them and say, let's bury the hatchet, I have a job and I'd really like you to work with me. I know you're really smart. The turnaround of emotions is a very powerful thing where they're going, wow, yeah, sure, that's great. I never expected that. And they're highly motivated to now prove that they're worthy of your change of mind. So it's not about not trusting your friends in the realm of friendship in personal relationships. It's about being aware that the work world is different from the realm of personal relationships.
Rule number 6 is be present.
You have to be present with yourself. Presumably, being present with yourself is a necessary skill in order to be present with other people.
I think it's extremely important. Yeah. I mean, so when I'm meditating, I've been doing it now for 12 years, although I wish it had been more my whole life. And I do it every morning, no matter what. Even if I'm flying on a plane, I manage to do it every single day for 45 minutes. And what it does is you're sitting there, and if you've ever done it, you know that thoughts immediately bubble up, that you don't know where they come from. And a lot of them are unpleasant thoughts, things that you are maybe a little bit ashamed about, or that reveal kind of pettiness or anxieties that you really wouldn't want to expose to the world at large. And you start picking up things about yourself, and it creates a kind of humility. Whereas you can go through the day thinking, wow, I'm so confident, I'm so in control. I have all these great ideas, etc. When you're on those pillows, cushions, and you're meditating, it's humiliating because you realize you're not. You're full of doubts, insecurities, anxieties, stupid, petty, trivial thoughts, etc., etc. It's a real way of looking into who you are, okay? And in order to do that, you have to literally be on those cushions and have no distractions, no music. I don't have any, people like to listen to recordings. I forget what they call it, some kind of meditation, guided meditations, etc. All meditation is great, but I think the best is no distractions, no music, no sounds, no people, no nothing intervening. So you have only yourself, right? And so you go deeply, deeply into yourself. And eventually you get beyond all of those niggly little thoughts and those kind of insecurities, et cetera, and you find something deeper about yourself. But you're becoming incredibly sensitive and present to who you are. And then that awareness allows you to maybe change things. So for instance, I'm aware of how many silly anxieties I have. I'll be sitting there meditating and I'm trying to focus on, I do Zen meditation on this kind of larger Buddhistic picture of the environment, etc. what is known as in Japanese Zen as mu. And then I'm sitting here worried about, the stupid little conversation the day before. And then I learned through this that I have to drop these feelings and drop them and alter myself. Well, that same kind of presence and awareness that you develop for yourself, a kind of sensitivity to who you are, to your moods, to what makes you different, to your good qualities and your bad qualities, is what now makes you able to deal with that with other people, on a higher level.
Rule number 7 is find your life's task.
The idea of finding your life's task, the reason it is the first one, is it's the most important decision in your life. All of your happiness, all of your sense of fulfillment, everything that you get that you really want in life comes from making this choice. And so a lot of people do this wrong. They think that what is most important is getting attention, getting a lot of recognition, getting a lot of followers on Instagram, or they think it's about making a lot of money very quickly. They're in a hurry before the age of 30 to become a multimillionaire, etc. And these are recipes for having burnout, for finding yourself in a career that you never intended to go into, and then you're 32 and you're 33 and man, this is boring the shit out of me. It has no relation to me personally. And then you get distracted and you get into other bad habits and drugs or whatever, etc. And your life can spiral downward. So the key in life is to choose as early as possible. It's never too late because, as I've written about and you'll find out in the book, I didn't discover my life's task until I was essentially 37, which isn't too young. That's pretty old in life. I mean, I had an inkling, which was I was meant to be a writer. But the specific way of writing turned into my first books. It took me years of pain, of wandering, of experimenting. So it can happen later in life, and that's okay. But the earlier you go through this process, the better. And basically what I'm trying to get you to do is connect to who you are, connect to yourself. Because a lot of people, I get this a lot of time, people will come to me and they say, Robert, I read your chapter in Mastery on discovering your life's task, but I don't understand. I have no clue what mine is. It's very vague to me. How do I find it? Well, the first step is connecting to who you are. A lot of us are very distant from ourselves. We're so used to being, to listening to other people. We're such conformists. We've spent so much time on social media, or so much time we hear our parents or our friends telling us what's cool, what's right, what's the best thing, that we have no idea who we are, what we love, what makes us happy, what gives us a sense of fulfillment. We've grown distant from it. It's like we're a stranger to ourselves. So you have to go through a process of kind of rediscovery, of getting reacquainted with who you are and what you love in life. And I discuss in the book and in the first month of January many different steps you can take towards that, of seeing the things that affect you strongly, the things that you read about on the internet or in a book. You go, wow, I love that idea. That's so exciting. That's a sign of something that appeals to you in a very primal way. And it's an indication of who you are. I also like to direct people to a book by Howard Gardner, a book I found very excellent called The 5 Frames of Intelligence, which basically says there are 5 forms of intelligence. We generally think of intelligence as just being kind of intellectual intelligence, like people who are good with words or math or physics. But he says that there are 5 forms of intelligence, and it's very true. There's patterns, which is what math and music are about. There's words, which is probably what I was inclined to. There's kinetics, there's movement, body action. There's the social element. And one of these frames of intelligence, there are 5, I forgot the 5th, is something that you are naturally stronger at, you're gifted at, but you're not aware of it. And so if you become aware of what you are naturally drawn towards, that will help you figure out your life's task. And once you have clues like that, it becomes a matter of experimenting, taking your time in your 20s when you're young and you're excited and everything is an adventure for you, and trying things out, not being so rigid, not going, I have to go into banking. I have to go and get a job on Wall Street when I'm 24 and that's the rest of my life. Have some fun, experiment, try different things in the areas that appeal to you. And slowly, you're going to develop different kinds of skills and ideas that you can combine into your own business, into your own book, or whatever it is. So a sense of adventure and fun is very important to discovering your life's task.
Rule number 8 is practice meditation.
I can't express how deeply, deeply important it has meant to me, meditation, how it has changed me, how it has made my life more bearable, even much more beautiful. I advocate it. I can't find words to advocate it. It's so important. And the problem I have is it's such a trendy thing and so many people are doing it. And I'm somebody that kind of hates trendiness, that it makes me feel a little bit weird that I'm doing that. But it's still something that I've been doing for many, many years, and it transcends the kind of faddishness of meditation. So get rid of all of the cliches about things you've read it and approach it in the following way. So the first thing about meditation is it's a ritual. It's a ritual you do every single day. And getting into the habit of doing something every single day is transformative just by itself, right? So I do it in the morning when I first wake up. Some people prefer to do it at the end of the day. They're both equally good, although at the end of the day, the mind is kind of looser and a little harder to control. But I'm sitting on pillows and I'm looking out and it's like I'm almost being thankful that I'm alive, that I didn't die the following evening. And I'm seeing the morning as it is. And I'm just sort of like greeting the sun. I'm greeting the new morning that has arrived. And it's an incredibly great feeling to just every day sort of look at the world and go, all right, I'm starting a new day. It's the morning. It's fantastic. Everything is fresh and new. I can get rid of all of my old thoughts, all of my old burdens and anxieties. It's a new day. You do that every single day and you become addicted to it. And to not start your day with that feels kind of empty and meaningless. So just in the process of doing something every single day like that will transform you. It will transform your mind in a very powerful way. The other thing is meditation brings a kind of calmness that is so necessary in life. So sometimes you're in a situation where everything is coming at you. People are yelling at you. You've got emails are piling up. You're getting stressed. You're getting kind of cranky, et cetera, et cetera. And you go, God damn it, I got to calm down. I got to find a way. I better do something. I better take a pill or drink a beer or do something. Meditation doesn't operate that way. Because you've practiced it all of the time, every single day, you don't have to try. It comes up within you naturally. So because every morning I'm calming my mind down, I'm making it still, I'm trying to get rid of all of those intrusive thoughts. When that moment comes where people are yelling at me, screaming at me, emails are piling up, everyone's getting cranky, I don't have to think, I don't have to try. It just naturally rises up in me. Don't react, Robert. Why react? It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. So when I'm meditating, as I'm emptying my mind, as I'm trying to go into this Zen state where everything kind of drops out, I'm meditating on a particular word, which I'm not going to bore you with. Suddenly thoughts will come into my head. Oh, you didn't respond to this person. You better return that email. Where are you going to go tomorrow? Are you going to go on your bike ride tomorrow? Oh, you better return this phone call. As they come in, I go, this isn't important. This doesn't matter. I'm trying to do something much more essential for my life. These petty thoughts, worrying about them at 7 a.m, I'm not going to change anything by worrying about them. So get rid of them.
Rule number 9 is master persuasion.
You can't have success in life or anything that you want without the ability to influence people, without the ability to have some degree, some persuasive powers. This could be with your children, it could be with your spouse, it could be with your colleagues or your boss. The sense that you cannot have any influence on them is extremely uncomfortable for us. It makes us very neurotic. It makes us very unhappy, and it's a sense of powerlessness. So the first thing you have to we have to agree on here is you want the ability to influence people. You want the ability to persuade them, to be able to move them to some degree in your direction, to get them interested in your ideas, and to be honest with yourself that this is something that you want, all right? The second thing you have to be aware of is that you're usually going at it from the wrong end. You're thinking first and foremost about yourself. This is the number one problem that afflicts humanity in the world today. We are all becoming so much more self-absorbed and so much more narcissistic. And a lot of it is understandable. We're spending so much time on our smartphones and our virtual worlds and not enough with other people and interacting with them and getting inside their spirit and their mentality. So it's everywhere. Everywhere we go, we're finding the same problems. You know, you'll find it in your own interactions. You have a problem, you get on the phone with somebody who's, you know, who knows where they're located, and they're not listening to you. They're not trying to help you. They're only interested in their job or, you know, in any kind of service field, or etc. Continually confronting people who are not listening, who are not observing, who are not open to your spirit, etc. And so you've got to reverse the whole game. Let's say you have an idea for an amazing film, and all you need is $6 million. I mean, that's a lot, but that's, for Hollywood purposes, pretty cheap. You need $6 million to fund, right? Okay, the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna think, I've got to impress them with how great my idea is. I'm gonna come up with this incredible scenario, this amazing pitch, how great I am, how wonderful the idea is, how much money it will sell, and I'm gonna go at them and I'm gonna pitch it to them. And then you discover that after all your work, they're not listening to you, they're not interested, they're kind of indifferent. You scratch your head and you go, what? I spent hours, I spent days crafting this perfect pitch and it's not working. It's because you're looking through the telescope in the wrong side, right? You need to be focusing first and foremost on them. So let's say there's a target you have, like a film producer who you think would be perfect for them. Instead of thinking about you and your project, your first bit of research is who they are, what kind of films they've made, what their last film did and how it succeeded or failed. You know, what will please them? What's in their mindset? What is their interest? What are they looking for? And once you start that game, then you're going to change everything. You're going to alter your pitch so that it's the same ideas, but it's appealing to them and their interest in what they need, not what you need. And they'll feel it, they'll sense it, and it'll have a much greater effect on them. This applies to everything you do in life, right? If you're writing a book, I know it's like not many people are writing books, but it's the thing I know the best, is the first thought is the reader, the audience. It's not about me and my poetry and my great language and my words and my wonderful ideas. I always think first of the reader. What is their mentality? What are their problems? How are they going to read this? And the problem that a lot of writers make, and this applies to everything, applies to business, etc., is they assume that the other person has the same level of knowledge and the same interests as they do. And it's never the case. You have to think inside of the reader. You have to think, how are they going to absorb this information? Do I have to simplify my language? Do I have to make it clear, etc.? Or if you have a business, you have to think continually and in the most radical fashion about your clients, your customers, your audience, what their needs are. And their needs are never static. It's never like in September, they're buying this kind of clothes, and then the following year, 6 months later, they're going to keep buying them. No, the tastes change, particularly in the world today. Trends are continually changing. You have to keep up with that. You have to be outer-oriented. Just make that one shift in your life, and all the magic will happen. Stop turning inside and thinking about yourself and about what you want to say and about what your brilliant ideas and how people aren't listening to you and whining and complaining, and turn it around and look at them and look at what they need and what they want and what their problems are and what they're going through. Not only will it make you a better persuader and influencer, it'll make you a lot happier because it'll help you get outside of yourself and outside of all of your self-absorption.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is enjoy the little things in life.
Appreciating the little things in life that I just, it's a cliche and I hate saying cliches, But, I have that feeling almost every day where I'm looking at somebody going, man, that must be, I'm like riding my bike and I'm seeing somebody just sitting in a park reading a book on a bench, and I'm going, God, that is so much fun just to be able to do that. I can't do that anymore, but I put myself in their body. The little things in life that you take for granted are so filled with so much happiness and joy that you're not thinking about. If that person sitting on a bench reading that book only realized what this person riding by thinks, maybe they wouldn't take it for granted. So many of those little things that you don't think about have incredible importance, at least to me, having lost them.
I want us to get over this notion that the narcissist is always the other person and not me. We are all on the spectrum. The solution here is simple. First, we have to admit that we are narcissists. The person that says, oh my God, I'm not a narcissist. No, not me. That's exactly a sign of narcissism right there. They are the exception. No, not me. Look at me, I'm not a narcissist. The second thing you have to realize is that you're basically a functional narcissist. And that energy that goes into yourself can literally be turned outward and can be transformed into empathy, which is one of the chapters in my book. And what I mean by that is we turned all of that libidinal desire into ourselves. We became fascinated with ourselves, our thoughts, our ideas. We need to turn that outward into people that we're looking at. So when you're in a conversation with a friend or whatever, chances are you're not really listening to them. You're not paying attention. You're on your phone or you're somewhere else because you're more interested in your own ideas and your own problems. That's where your energy and fascination goes. But you must realize that the people you're dealing with are weirder and more interesting than you could ever imagine. I like to tell people, think of the people you deal with as if they were characters in a movie. I had a job once where I was really depressed, people I thought were really awful, and I imagined that they were actually figures in Greek mythology, and I had to figure out which one each one of them was. And it helped me a lot, because now I had to think about their lives and their childhoods and what made them the way they were. So the people you're dealing with are much more interesting than you imagine. And so if you can turn that energy around and you can start placing yourself in their shoes, it will go a long way to taking that self-absorption and turning it outward. We're all working in much more diverse workplaces. 50 years ago, when my father had his job, it was all basically white men in his office. We don't have that anymore. People come from all different men and women, all different cultural backgrounds. And in this diverse workplace, it's actually fascinating to try and get into the backgrounds and the mindsets of this diverse world and get outside yourself and get inside what other people are experiencing and try to figure out their culture that they came from. It's like therapy. So this is an incredible power empathy that lies latent in all of you, but that must be cultivated and developed. The brain is structured in a kind of a hierarchical manner. And at the very bottom are those most primitive layers, but it's often in cliched terms called the lizard brain, but it's very real. And then there's a kind of a midbrain that's more, evolutionary, that's more where our emotions come from and kind of a connection between the lowest part and the highest part. Anyway, so we have this knowledge, this ability to to stand back from our immediate circumstances and contemplate possibilities. Oh, I don't have to react like an animal to this thing happening. I can step back and I can think. Perhaps I could do A, B, or C, as opposed to just reacting. And that is incredibly powerful. It's what has made us who we are today. But the problem with it is we don't know how to use our brains because we still are trapped in that very primitive model that we have. And so we feel emotions, and emotions tend to govern so much of our thinking because they're much more powerful than the kind of weak little signals that come from the frontal cortex. And so we're not aware of how deeply our emotions are infecting our decisions in our day-to-day life. And the people who know this the best are people in marketing, because they have been studying since the 1950s all of the amazing psychological experiments about how you can kind of manipulate people. How if you're a salesman and you just lightly touch somebody on the arm as a friendly gesture, they're 80% more likely to buy your product, right? If you use their name, all these other little tricks, they've been studying it, and they know deeply how much that emotional part of us governs our decisions when we buy things. They call it the affective heuristic. It means that our decisions are largely based on emotions. And the problem that we face is we're not aware of that. That was the whole subject of the laws of human nature. We walk around thinking that we're making decisions rationally, that when we buy a product or that when we choose a partner to get involved with, to marry or whomever, that we're basically basing this on certain kind of rational, protocols. But we're not at all. We're infected very, very deeply with emotions. And so that lack of awareness, that belief that we are rational when we're not rational, is very, very dangerous. Because, answer me this, Tom, how many people do you know who admit to the fact that they are irrational, that a decision they made in life, even one that was a mistake, came from an irrational part of them, that it wasn't something that was thought through, that it wasn't something as strategic? I bet you could count them on one hand, Yeah. And I'm as guilty of that as the next person. It's very much part of our nature to deny the fact that mostly we're governed by emotional responses to the world around us.
I want to convince you that the human brain is a naturally creative instrument. It is designed for making connections between ideas, for envisioning DEF and beyond. It wants to go in that direction. Creativity is not a function of some freakish genetic wiring that occurs in the brains of a few people. It is instead the function of awakening and exploiting the natural creative energy we all possess. Second, I want to show you what prevents many of us from taking this path towards greater creative energy, how we block and inhibit ourselves. Well, this is an example of what I call high-level creativity. It is a function of two critical elements. First, a great deal of knowledge that is stored and organized in our long-term memory. And second, the willingness and ability to roam freely through all of that knowledge. This second quality is what we might call fluidity of mind. We notice this fluidity if we've had a few drinks, or we take some drugs, or we smoke some pot, or we're feeling extremely tired. Suddenly, it seems as if doors are opened up and our minds can move about more freely, and they can come upon ideas, interesting ideas that had eluded us before. Well, highly creative people do not need this extra bit of stimulation. They have managed to retain or rediscover that fluid original mind of the child and wedded it to all of this knowledge and experience, giving them what I call the dimensional mind, a mind capable of seeing more dimensions of the visible and invisible world around us. High-level creativity requires these two elements. If you have an open and fluid mind, but not enough knowledge and experience, you will basically remain on the level of a child. If you have a lot of knowledge and experience, but your mind is tight and unwilling to roam, you will come up with the same conventional responses, the same A, B, and C, like Pasteur's colleagues. Well, highly creative people have both. They have the knowledge and the experience, plus the mental fluidity, which gives them the ability to see more possibilities in the world around them and to maximize, to realize to its fullest, the natural connecting power of the human brain. I'm a very driven person, so I wasn't going to let this defeat me, because the alternative was losing hope and becoming suicidal, and I wasn't going to let that happen. Also, I knew I had another book that I really, really wanted to write, so I had to keep living, and I was in a coma for a while, and things were a little bit touch and go during that. And I feel like there was something willed inside of me unconsciously that kept me alive. The other weird thing is I spent a lot of my time alone, swimming, hiking, writing, It just so happened, just by coincidence, that I was driving when my wife was there. And so I have a feeling that I kind of almost was ready to have my stroke once she was there. I can't say that for sure. These are, weird kind of psychic, almost kind of thoughts. But I felt like there was some willpower in me that was keeping me alive so I could keep going. But the main lesson was, it's been a struggle. I can't say it's been easy. I can't lie and say I've just figured it all out and I'm this incredible superhuman being. I've had moments where I've cried. I've had moments where I felt like giving up. It's like a daily struggle. And other people, I know a lot of people in this world suffer. They have it a lot worse than I do. I have a comfortable life. I have a lot of money. I have my books, etc. But on the level of my body, just every day has been a struggle. I wake up, can I walk? Will I fall? Can I hold this in my hand? It's so dependent on other people. I'm a very independent person. So I've had to really, really work on myself and really develop a lot of patience, which I don't have. And the thing is, when you get an illness like this or something happens like that, the natural thing is just to sort of wait it out and wait until your body recovers. And people said I would have a full recovery 2 years down the line or so. So the tendency would be just to let it go and let time take its healing process. But I wouldn't let that. I don't know why, but I was like, no, I'm going to work out every single day. I'm going to do therapy 2 or 3 hours a day. I bought a special bicycle because I can't do a normal bicycle. It's a recumbent bike where you sit down. Man, it's like the hardest thing. You have to get up these incredible hills, and 80-year-old grandmothers are whizzing by me on their bicycle.
This is outdoors.
Outdoors in Griffith Park, yeah.
Wow.
But I'm just determined to beat the thing. And sometimes it beats me. So every day it's like a battle, it's like a boxing match. Who's going to win? But I'm not going to give up. I just keep trying. I'm going to see a new therapist. I'm working on new exercises. I'm working on different parts of my body. I'm trying to build strength in certain muscles so I can start walking normally. Because as you know, working out, swimming and hiking and bicycling, that was my main way of de-stressing. I loved it. I loved being out in nature. I loved being alone with my thoughts. And to have that ripped away, it was like having, part of your whole body taken away from you. So, but I'm pretty relentless. That's my lesson. I didn't give up. I thought of myself in the sense that I too had many failures. I too had problems dealing with people, particularly before I wrote the 48 Laws of Power, problems that inspired that book. I too had made many mistakes. I had violated law number 1, never outshine the master, and I had been fired for that. So I was thinking about my own problems as well. And about 7 years ago, I decided to set out on a quest. I was going to try to get at the root of all of these problems that these people had and that I had, to sort of, and what I thought that the root of this problem was a basic ignorance or misunderstanding of human nature, of the laws that govern human behavior, much like Sir Isaac Newton was looking at the laws that govern the movement of stars. I was going to write a book about this subject because startlingly enough, this is a subject that we all need to know, because as a social animal, we spend all of our time dealing with people. You can't succeed in this world. I don't care how technically brilliant you are in your field, how well you are at coding or whatever it is. If you don't understand people, you're going to neutralize all of your powers.
A lot of people have a misconception that rationality is the ability to repress your emotions, to somehow subtract them from your decision-making process. And that is exactly the wrong way to approach it, because think of it in your own life. If you meet somebody who turns out to be very toxic, like a toxic narcissist, you're going to get a gut reaction, an emotional response from them, right? Something's wrong with this person. And then that causes you to start thinking about, maybe I shouldn't involve myself in a partnership with this person. Maybe I shouldn't get in a relationship. So your emotion will trigger a dangerous response, which was sort of the reason why we have emotions, a fear response. Oh, there's a lion hanging out over there. I better be, aware of it. That emotion then triggers your kind of awareness. So emotions are essential to the rational process. The problem is you have no distance from your emotions. You're not able to take a step back and analyze, is this a rational response? Is there really a lion over there? Well, I live in Los Angeles. There's probably not a lion over there. It could be a coyote or something, right? So I'm able to step back and kind of analyze the nature of the threat, the nature of what could be something exciting or not. So that's the dividing line, the ability to step back and analyze your emotions and tell yourself, why am I feeling this way? Why am I angry? Why am I excited? That is the key point. That is what divides people who are truly able to be rational from those who can't be, right? So you have to train yourself. It's not natural to who we are because our nature is to simply react, right? So the ability to stand back and say, no, I better wait. Maybe I should wait a couple of days before I send it. Let's see how I think tomorrow. And then tomorrow shows you that it was irrational, that your emotion wasn't really proportional to the event. So if your emotional reaction is proportional to the threat or to the opportunity, then there's a reason for it. But so often, particularly in this hyper social media environment where it's kind of like we're all feeling constant rage and anger, a lot of times it's not related to anything real or is out of proportion to the actual problem or threat. So you don't try and repress your emotions. You can't write a book. You can't start a business. You can't make a decision about what you want to do without the richness of emotions. The brain is an organic thing. Everything works together. So people who have had that damage where they can't feel the emotion, that the emotions are blocked, and there are brain damage that causes that, it's been shown that they can't make rational decisions because they can't decide. They can't feel what is good or what is bad, what is an opportunity, what is dangerous. So you want your emotions, you need them. You're not trying to repress them. Repressing emotions will lead to other problems. What you want is just that tiny little bit of distance, that ability when you're feeling it to go back and go, why am I really feeling this? What are the roots of it? That's a very powerful ability that you can use, that you can develop through practice, just like exercise will develop your muscles. Through being able to think before you react, it will slowly become natural to you. But you have to practice it, and you have to be aware of that's the source of your problem.
I've had to deal with a lot of fear. You don't know what it's like every day you're walking, and you don't know the next moment you're going to fall. I've had several falls, and falls are literally what will do you in. So it's constant fear, and I just won't let it affect me. I push past my limits. I do things that I'm not supposed to do. I take hikes, even though I have to hold on to somebody to do it. People think I'm crazy. So I had to deal with my fear. Mastery taught me that repetition, doing something over and over and over again, like any kind of skill, learning a skill like basketball or whatever, leads to something. So every day, just using my left hand instead of my right hand, forcing myself and slowly getting used to it, that taught me a lot. And then the laws of human nature, I have one thing that when you have a stroke, it affected the right side of my brain, which destroyed the left side of my body. And supposedly when the right side of your brain is damaged, it tends to make you more emotional. And I've definitely become more emotional. So I've had to learn to control some of my anger, some of my impatience, some of my frustration. And obviously the laws of human nature are a lot about that. And the last chapter is about having to deal with death. And so with all of the things I'm dealing with and all the kind of, God damn it, why can't I do that? I have to keep reminding myself I'm alive. I'm going to write another book. The birds are out there chirping. It could have been a much different story. Last month, 6 weeks ago, was the 2nd-year anniversary of the stroke. And I had this thought, this could have been the 2nd anniversary of my death.
Wow.
And what people would be like gathering together, or maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. But it would be like the anniversary of my death. But it's not. I've been given a second lease, and I have to think about that every single day.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Jordan Peterson, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
One of the chapters in my books is focused on putting your house in order. It's like, well, how do you start? Make your bed. It actually took me quite a long time in my life before I made my bed regularly in the morning. Most of my life was in pretty good order, but that was one thing I didn't have in order.